The truth about Marcus Aurelius' greatest lessons. Chapter 1. The essential life. The greatest tragedy of a human life is not failure. It is distraction. Marcus Aurelius did not fear poverty. He did not fear criticism. He did not even fear death. He feared something far more dangerous. A life consumed by things that never truly mattered. Imagine the most powerful man on earth. An emperor whose decisions shaped armies, laws, and the fate of millions across the Roman Empire. Yet every night, when silence replaced ceremony, he asked himself only one question. Is this essential? Not. Will this make me richer? Not. Will this make me famous? Not even. Will history remember me? Only. Is this essential? 2,000 years later, that quiet question has become even more difficult to answer. Our attention is bought and sold every second. Every notification demands urgency. Every headline claims importance. Every opinion competes for space inside our minds. We mistake movement for progress. We confuse being busy with building a meaningful life. Many modern business strategy books teach entrepreneurs how to grow faster. Many business stories celebrate companies that conquered markets. Every business documentary admires the rise of another business empire. Yet behind nearly every lasting achievement lies a far simpler discipline: knowing what to ignore. The greatest business success is rarely created by doing more. It is created by refusing almost everything that does not deserve your energy. This is the forgotten foundation of every remarkable life. A wise investor protects capital. A wise ruler protects a nation. Marcus Aurelius believed a wise human being protects something even more valuable: attention. Because attention becomes action. Action becomes character. Character becomes destiny. Perhaps that is why the emperor never asked how to control the world. He asked how to control himself. Before every decision, before every conversation, before every ambition, he returned to the same silent question: is this essential? And perhaps, before chasing more money, before pursuing greater wealth, before studying finance, entrepreneurship, or the next great business case study, we should ask ourselves that same question. Because the quality of a life is rarely determined by everything we choose to do. It is determined by everything we finally have the courage to leave behind. Chapter 2. The prison of opinions. There is a prison that most people enter without ever realizing it. It has no stone walls, no iron bars, no chains. It is built from the opinions of other people. Marcus Aurelius once wrote a sentence so brief that many readers pass over it without a second thought. You always have the power to have no opinion. At first, those words seem almost strange. We are taught to have opinions, to react, to comment, to respond to everything happening around us. But Marcus was not encouraging indifference. He was teaching something far more valuable: freedom. A person does not lose freedom when someone else controls their actions. They lose freedom when someone else controls their emotions. Today, a single comment, a social media post, a sensational headline, or criticism from a complete stranger can ruin an entire day. We allow other people to decide whether we feel confident or insecure, whether we feel successful or defeated. The voices around us become louder than the voice within us, and that is far too high a price to pay. The same pattern appears in business. Many companies do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they try to satisfy everyone. They chase every trend. They react to every criticism. They become prisoners of public approval instead of leaders guided by clear principles. The greatest brand stories were never written by people who wanted universal acceptance. They were written by those who understood what deserved their attention and what deserved to be ignored. Marcus Aurelius understood a timeless truth. Not every word deserves a reply. Not every argument deserves your presence. Not every insult deserves a place in your memory. Some victories are won through silence. Because every time you refuse to carry someone else's unnecessary opinion, you return something precious to yourself: your attention, your clarity, your peace. Perhaps true strength is not always having something to say. Perhaps true strength is knowing what does not deserve your words. And perhaps one of the highest forms of wisdom is not proving that you are right. It is knowing when nothing needs to be judged at all. Chapter 3. The truth about comfort. What if the greatest enemy of your future is not failure, not poverty, Not bad luck, but comfort. Every civilization that disappeared did not collapse the moment it became weak. It collapsed the moment it became comfortable. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. This channel is dedicated to exploring timeless wisdom, business stories, philosophy, psychology, business history, and the hidden patterns behind human success and failure. If these conversations challenge the way you think, consider following the journey. Because sometimes, one forgotten idea can quietly change an entire life. Now, let me tell you a story. In the winter of 171 AD, a young Roman officer named Lucius stood outside the emperor's tent. He had marched for weeks through freezing forests. His boots were soaked. His hands were bleeding. He believed the emperor must surely be resting beside a warm fire. Instead, when the curtain opened, he found Marcus Aurelius writing. No servants, no luxury, no celebration. Only a small oil lamp and a notebook. Curious, Lucius asked, "Caesar, why do you never allow yourself to rest?" Marcus looked at him quietly before answering. Because comfort is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master. Whether those exact words were spoken, history does not tell us, but his life tells us something even greater. Every morning, he fought the same battle, not against barbarians, not against political enemies, but against himself, against the temptation to stay where it was warm, safe, easy. The human brain loves comfort. Psychologists call it the status quo bias. Your mind is designed to conserve energy. It wants familiar routines, predictable outcomes, minimal effort. That instinct once helped us survive. Today, it often prevents us from growing. This has never been more dangerous than it is now. Artificial intelligence can write faster than you, analyze data faster than you, build presentations, business analysis reports, business strategy documents, and even complete business case studies in minutes. But AI cannot replace one thing: the willingness to do difficult things, the courage to think independently, the discipline to improve every single day. The people who fear AI the most are often the people who stopped learning long before AI arrived. Technology is not replacing human beings. It is exposing them. It reveals who has curiosity and who only had routine. It reveals who keeps growing and who quietly surrendered to comfort years ago. Whether you are building a business empire, leading a startup, studying finance, investing in the stock market, or simply trying to become a better parent, the question remains exactly the same. Will comfort make today's decision for you? Or will purpose? Marcus Aurelius leaves us with 5 timeless lessons. First, comfort should be your reward, never your destination. Second, discipline becomes easier every time you practice it. Third, growth always begins where convenience ends. Fourth, technology should amplify wisdom, never replace it. And finally, your greatest competitor is rarely another person. It is the version of yourself that always chooses the easier path. If I were starting today, I would not compete against artificial intelligence. I would learn to work with it. I would use AI to organize knowledge, summarize books, improve writing, analyze business explained case studies, strengthen financial education, and free more time for the one activity no machine can perform on my behalf: developing character. Perhaps that is the highest return on investment any of us will ever make. Now I'd love to hear from you. What is the greatest distraction or the greatest comfort that is quietly holding you back today? Leave it in the comments. Your question might become the inspiration for a future conversation. And in our next chapter, we will explore an even greater challenge of the modern world: the truth about thinking clearly in the age of AI. Because in an age where machines can think faster, clear thinking may become the rarest human advantage of all. Chapter 4. The truth about success that can never be stolen. What if one day you lost everything? Your money, your career, your reputation, even the people who once applauded your success. What would remain? This is not a hypothetical question. History has asked it of kings, millionaires, billionaires, and even the greatest empires that once believed themselves invincible. If you're enjoying these conversations, consider following the channel. Each week, we explore timeless philosophy, psychology, business history, and the hidden principles behind human greatness, not to escape the modern world, but to understand it more clearly. Now, Let me tell you another story. It was a cold morning in Rome. Dark clouds hung over the imperial palace. Messengers arrived one after another. A deadly plague was spreading across the empire. The northern frontier was under attack. The imperial treasury was shrinking. Even the Senate had begun to lose confidence. A young official rushed into Marcus Aurelius' chamber. His voice trembled. "Caesar, if we continue losing everything, what will remain of the empire?" Marcus Aurelius did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked through the window. In the courtyard below, soldiers continued their training. They did not know what tomorrow would bring. Yet every one of them continued doing their duty. After a long silence, Marcus finally spoke. "If a man loses his possessions, yet keeps his character, he has lost nothing of true value." History does not record those exact words, but they capture the spirit of everything Marcus wrote in Meditations. Again and again, he reminded himself that everything external could disappear. Money, power, health, status, even life itself. But there was one thing no emperor, no enemy, no crisis could ever take away, unless he surrendered it himself: his character. Today, we often measure success with numbers. How much money we own, how many followers we have, how many companies we build, how many investments succeed, how much admiration we receive. But if all of those disappeared tomorrow, would your success disappear with them? Business history offers the same lesson repeatedly. Some companies collapsed, yet their founders remained deeply respected. Others became wealthier than ever, while quietly losing the trust of the world. Money can purchase influence. Power can command obedience. But only character earns lasting respect. And in the age of artificial intelligence, this truth becomes even more valuable. AI can write speeches, design brands, perform business analysis, create business strategy presentations, generate financial education materials, even simulate the communication style of great leaders. But AI cannot be honest for you. It cannot keep your promises. It cannot earn trust on your behalf. As technology makes skills easier to replicate, character will become humanity's greatest competitive advantage. It cannot be downloaded. It cannot be automated. And it can never be purchased. Marcus Aurelius leaves us with 5 timeless lessons. First, never build your life upon what you cannot control. Second, money is a tool. Never confuse it with your identity. Third, reputation belongs to other people. Character belongs to you. Fourth, invest every day in what will remain, even if everything else disappears. And finally, ask yourself each evening, if I lost everything today, would I still be someone worthy of respect? If I were beginning today, I would absolutely use artificial intelligence. I would let it summarize books, organize knowledge, analyze markets, improve my writing, automate repetitive work, but I would reserve my most valuable hours for the one investment that no machine can ever make on my behalf: building integrity, strengthening discipline, keeping promises to myself, because those qualities will outlive every technology. Now I'd like to ask you something. What do you believe is the most valuable possession a person can own, yet the easiest to lose? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective may inspire our next conversation. And in the next chapter, we will explore one of Marcus Aurelius' most profound ideas: the view from above. A perspective so powerful that the greatest worries of today suddenly become very small. Chapter 5. The truth about seeing the world from above. What if the biggest problem in your life today is only a problem because you are standing too close to it? Every mountain appears impossible until you see it from the sky. Every storm feels endless until you realize it covers only a tiny corner of the horizon. If you've been following this journey, welcome back. Here, we don't chase trends. We search for timeless ideas that have guided emperors, entrepreneurs, philosophers, and builders of great civilizations. Because sometimes, changing your perspective changes your entire destiny. Now, let me tell you a story. One spring morning, Marcus Aurelius climbed a quiet hill overlooking Athens. The city stretched beneath him like a living tapestry. Markets buzzed with merchants. Children laughed through narrow streets. Ships crossed the distant Aegean Sea. Temples that had once represented the greatest civilization on earth now appeared surprisingly small. Standing beside him was a young Roman scholar. The young man admired the magnificent city before asking, "Caesar, does greatness always last?" Marcus remained silent. His eyes wandered across ancient monuments that had survived kings, wars, victories, and defeats. Finally, he replied, "Everything becomes small when viewed from high enough." History remembers this idea as what many Stoics later called the view from above. It was never about escaping reality. It was about seeing reality more clearly. From the ground, every disagreement feels personal. Every failure feels permanent. Every criticism feels devastating. But from above, we begin to notice something extraordinary. Empires rise. Empires fall. Businesses are created. Business empires disappear. Stock markets boom. Stock markets crash. Millionaires become bankrupt. Unknown entrepreneurs become billionaires. Entire industries transform. And yet, human nature remains astonishingly familiar. People still fear, still hope, still love, still compete, still search for meaning. Marcus Aurelius understood something modern psychology continues to confirm. Distance creates clarity. When emotion dominates perception, wisdom becomes almost impossible. But when perspective expands, emotion loses its grip. This lesson has never been more valuable than it is today. Artificial intelligence delivers more information than any generation has ever experienced. News never stops. Notifications never sleep. Opinions travel faster than facts. Algorithms reward outrage more than understanding. The modern world constantly pulls your attention downward, into smaller arguments, smaller fears, smaller distractions. But wisdom asks you to rise higher. Not physically, mentally, emotionally, strategically. Every successful business strategy begins by stepping back before moving forward. Every meaningful business analysis starts with understanding the entire system. Every lasting brand strategy focuses on decades, not days. Every wise investor understands that daily volatility means very little when viewed across generations. Perspective creates better decisions, not panic. If you are leading a company, ask yourself, what will still matter 5 years from now? If you are building a career, ask, am I solving today's problem or creating tomorrow's opportunity? If you are raising children, remember, they will remember your presence far longer than your perfection. Marcus Aurelius leaves us with 5 lessons. First, distance often reveals truth. Second, most worries shrink with time. Third, never allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Fourth, great leaders think in decades, not headlines. And finally, when life feels overwhelming, climb higher before reacting. Not every climb requires a mountain. Sometimes, it requires only a quieter mind. If I were building a business today, I would use artificial intelligence to gather information quickly, to summarize business stories, analyze business history, compare business case studies, understand global economy trends, organize financial education. But I would never allow AI or social media to replace reflection. Information creates speed. Reflection creates wisdom. And wisdom has always been the rarest competitive advantage. Now I'd like to ask you something. What problem in your life might look completely different if you stepped back and viewed it from above? Share your thoughts below. Your story may help someone else see their own life more clearly. And in our next chapter, we'll explore a truth that may be even harder to accept. The truth about why the world never changes. Because perhaps the greatest mistake we make is waiting for humanity to become different instead of becoming different ourselves. Chapter 6. The truth about why the world never changes. What if the greatest disappointment in your life comes from expecting the world to become something it was never meant to be? For thousands of years, every generation has believed it lived in uniquely difficult times. They complained about dishonest politicians, greedy merchants, lazy workers, arrogant young people, corrupt leaders, broken families, economic uncertainty. Yet remarkably, the complaints recorded 2,000 years ago sound almost identical to those we hear today. If you've been walking this path with us, welcome back. This channel exists for one reason, not to teach you how to escape reality, but to understand it. Because once you understand reality, you stop fighting the wrong battles. Now, let me tell you another story. During one of Rome's darkest years, A young senator approached Marcus Aurelius after a heated debate. The Senate had spent hours arguing. Voices had risen. Accusations filled the chamber. Nothing meaningful had been accomplished. Frustrated, the young senator asked, "Caesar, when will people finally become wiser?" Marcus looked around the great hall. The marble columns had witnessed generations of rulers. The same ambitions, the same jealousy, the same pride, the same fear. Then he quietly replied, "The seasons change. Human nature rarely does." Whether those were his exact words, history cannot tell us. But the lesson echoes throughout Meditations. Marcus constantly reminded himself that people would remain selfish. Some would lie, some would betray, some would envy, some would seek power for the wrong reasons. And yet, none of this surprised him, because disappointment is often born, not from reality, but from unrealistic expectations. Modern psychology gives this tendency a name: expectation bias. We imagine the world should reward fairness, should recognize effort, should always tell the truth, should become more reasonable with time. But reality follows no such promise. Markets do not reward effort alone. Life is not perfectly fair. Good people sometimes lose. Dishonest people sometimes win. History has always unfolded this way. The Stoics never asked us to become cynical. They asked us to stop being naive. There is an enormous difference. The cynic loses hope. The Stoic loses illusion. Hope remains. Only illusion disappears. Today, artificial intelligence accelerates everything. Information spreads instantly. Opinions multiply by the second. Outrage becomes profitable. Algorithms amplify conflict because conflict captures attention. Many people believe technology has made humanity worse. Perhaps, technology has simply revealed humanity more clearly. AI did not invent greed. It did not invent envy. It did not invent fear. It merely allows those qualities to travel faster than ever before. Which means, your greatest responsibility has not changed. Protect your own character. If you are building a business, never assume customers will always be loyal. Earn their trust every day. If you are leading a company, never expect perfect employees. Build better systems. If you are raising children, never demand perfection. Teach resilience instead. If you are investing, never expect endless growth. Prepare for uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius leaves us with 5 enduring lessons. First, accept reality before trying to improve it. Second, expect human nature, not human perfection. Third, prepare more than you complain. Fourth, become the example you wish existed. And finally, stop waiting for history to change. Become the exception within it. If I were living through this age, and we all are, I would absolutely use artificial intelligence to learn faster, to understand business history, to explore business documentary archives, to improve business analysis, to study economics, finance, investing, and the global economy. But I would never expect technology to replace wisdom. Knowledge can be generated in seconds. Character still requires a lifetime. Now I'd like to ask you something. What expectation has caused you the greatest disappointment? Was it expecting too much from society, from another person, or perhaps from yourself? Share your thoughts below. Someone reading your story may discover they are not struggling alone. And in our next chapter, we will explore one of Marcus Aurelius' most difficult teachings, the truth about betrayal. Because sometimes, the deepest wounds in life are not caused by strangers. They are caused by the people we trusted the most. Chapter 7, the truth about betrayal. What if the deepest wound you will ever suffer is not caused by your enemies, but by someone you once trusted completely? History rarely remembers this side of Marcus Aurelius. We remember the philosopher, the emperor, the Stoic, but few remember that he experienced one of the greatest betrayals in Roman history. If you've been walking this journey with us, welcome back. This channel is where ancient wisdom meets modern life, where philosophy, psychology, business stories, and timeless leadership lessons become practical tools for navigating today's world. Because sometimes, the greatest teacher is not success, it is betrayal. Now, let me tell you a story. The year was 175 AD. Marcus Aurelius had spent years defending Rome's northern borders. The empire was exhausted. War had drained its treasury. Disease had emptied its cities. Then another disaster arrived. News spread across the empire. Avidius Cassius, one of Marcus' most trusted generals, had declared himself emperor. Not after Marcus had died. While Marcus was still alive. Imagine the silence that filled the imperial tent. This was not merely political rebellion. It was personal. The man Marcus had trusted had decided ambition mattered more than loyalty. His advisors demanded immediate revenge. The Senate expected executions. The army prepared for civil war. Everyone believed Marcus would respond with anger. Instead, he surprised the entire empire. He ordered restraint. He begged the Senate not to stain Rome with unnecessary blood. He even expressed hope that Cassius might live long enough to understand his mistake. History records few moments more extraordinary than this. Marcus Aurelius understood something that most of us spend a lifetime trying to learn. Betrayal reveals character. Not only the character of the betrayer, but also the character of the betrayed. Modern psychology tells us that betrayal activates the same regions of the brain associated with physical pain. That is why it hurts so deeply. Our brains experience broken trust, almost like a physical injury. But Marcus asked a different question. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" he asked, "What kind of person will this experience allow me to become?" That single question changes everything. Today, betrayal looks different. A business partner quietly breaks an agreement. An employee leaks confidential information. A friend shares your private struggles. Someone copies your work without acknowledgement. Artificial intelligence introduces new forms of betrayal as well. Deepfakes imitate identities. Scams become more convincing. False information spreads faster than truth. Trust is becoming one of the world's rarest resources, which makes character more valuable than ever before. If you lead a business, betrayal should teach you better systems, not permanent suspicion. If you build a brand, protect your reputation, because trust takes years to earn and seconds to destroy. If you lead people, remember that disappointment is inevitable. Bitterness is optional. Marcus Aurelius leaves us with 5 timeless lessons. First, expect betrayal as a possibility, not as a certainty. Second, never allow another person's dishonesty to become your excuse for abandoning your own values. Third, forgiveness is not forgetting. It is refusing to let anger become your identity. Fourth, build stronger boundaries without building a harder heart. And finally, the best revenge is exactly what Marcus Aurelius wrote: to refuse to become like the person who hurt you. If I were navigating today's world, I would absolutely use AI tools to improve security, verify information, protect sensitive data, and strengthen decision-making. But no software can replace wisdom in choosing whom to trust. Technology can detect fraud. Character recognizes integrity. And those two things are not the same. Now I'd like to ask you something. Has betrayal ever changed your life? Did it make you weaker? Or did it quietly make you wiser? Share your story below. Your experience may become someone else's source of strength. And in our next chapter, we'll explore one of Marcus Aurelius' most liberating ideas: the truth about letting go of what you cannot control. Because perhaps peace has never depended on controlling the world, only on learning to govern yourself. Chapter 8. The truth about letting go of what you cannot control. What if the heaviest burden you carry every day is one you were never meant to carry? How much of your anxiety comes from trying to control people, events, or a future that has never belonged to you? Perhaps peace has never been missing from your life. Perhaps you have simply been searching for it in places where it could never exist. Welcome back. If you've been walking this journey with us, thank you. Together, we are uncovering the timeless wisdom hidden inside meditations. Wisdom that continues to guide leaders, entrepreneurs, philosophers, and ordinary people navigating an extraordinary age. Because every generation faces different challenges, but every human being faces the same mind. Now, let me tell you another story. Late one evening, Marcus Aurelius sat alone inside his military tent. Outside, rain hammered against the canvas. Messengers arrived with conflicting reports. One spoke of victory, another warned of famine, a third predicted another rebellion. Every decision Marcus made could affect millions of lives. His generals waited for orders. His advisors expected certainty. Yet Marcus remained remarkably calm. One young officer finally asked, "Caesar, how do you remain so peaceful when everything around you is uncertain?" Marcus closed the scroll in his hands. Then he answered quietly, "I do not command tomorrow. I command only myself." Whether those were his exact words, history cannot say, but the idea fills every page of Meditations. Again and again, Marcus reminds himself of a simple distinction. Some things belong to us. Most things do not. Our choices, our character, our effort, our response. These belong to us. The weather, public opinion, the economy, other people's decisions, the past, the future, these never have. Yet somehow, we spend most of our lives trying to master exactly those things we cannot control. Modern psychology calls this the illusion of control. The more uncertain life becomes, the more desperately the human mind searches for certainty. We check our phones repeatedly, refresh the news, replay conversations, imagine endless scenarios, as if enough worrying could somehow change reality. But anxiety has never been a strategy. It is only imagination, trying to replace action. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before neuroscience existed. He knew that suffering often begins when we confuse influence with control. Today, artificial intelligence makes this temptation even stronger. We want to predict markets, predict elections, predict business trends, predict customer behavior, predict the future itself. AI can certainly improve predictions. It can analyze data, recognize patterns, estimate probabilities. But no algorithm has ever eliminated uncertainty. No machine has ever guaranteed tomorrow, which means wisdom remains exactly where it has always been, in learning to act without demanding certainty. If you are leading a business, focus on building resilient systems, not perfect forecasts. If you are investing, prepare for uncertainty instead of pretending it does not exist. If you are building a family, you cannot control every outcome, but you can control the love, patience, and example you bring each day. Marcus Aurelius leaves us with 5 timeless lessons. First, separate what you control from what you merely wish to control. Second, direct your energy toward action, not prediction. Third, uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the natural condition of life. Fourth, peace begins the moment control ends. And finally, the strongest people are not those who control the world. They are those who govern themselves. If I were living through today's world, I would gladly use artificial intelligence to automate repetitive work, to summarize knowledge, to analyze business strategy, to study finance, to understand the global economy. But I would never expect technology to remove uncertainty from life. Information may reduce confusion. Only wisdom reduces fear. And wisdom has never depended on certainty. Now I'd like to ask you something. What is one thing you have been trying to control that may never have been yours to control? Perhaps a relationship, a career, someone else's opinion, or even your own past. Share your thoughts below. You may discover that letting go is not losing control. It is finally becoming free. And in our next chapter, we'll explore one of Marcus Aurelius' most practical lessons. The truth about discipline when no one is watching. Because character is never built under the spotlight. It is built in the quiet moments when no one is there to applaud.